Guys, the inevitable happened. Moose was unable to defeat Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship. What is the future for Moose? We're going to talk about it in just a second and more with our special guest. So stay tuned. This is WrstlXtra.
Yo, it is your boy A Dazzle. This is WrstlXtra, of course, and you are here with me, A Dazzle, and my boy Mex. But yes, of course, you can see that there's a third person underneath us. You know what? I'm going to let you introduce yourself. You do it better. I'm sure you do it better than I would do it for you. So go for it, bro.
Hey man, LFam7 on your social media choice, aka the Itis of Podcasting. Captain Bro Albano, Burama Phillips, Sticky the Dragon, Steamboat of the Black Rasslin Podcast. Shout out Cal, shout out Math, shout out Stat Guy Drip, man. Shout out to the delegation.
See, I told you I couldn't have done that. Yo, this is the boy LFam, also known from the Black Rasslin Podcast. It doesn't sound right when we say it. It doesn't sound right when we use our English accent to say it. It doesn't work. But it's spelled not wrestling as in W-R-E. It is Rasslin as in R-A-S-S-L-I-N. So if anyone knows of the old school wrestling, I guess it's more kind of from the South, that kind of talk where it would be termed as wrestling.
Yeah,
I try with the accent there, Rasslin. Yeah. So yeah, man, this is the boy LFam from the Black Rasslin Podcast. And let me tell everyone this from now. Actually, I say this almost every time I mention this podcast. When I started out about 4 years ago now, I think it is. Gosh, yeah, it's 4 years. Wow. And I've decided to do something a little different and focus my energies on Black wrestling. The first and only, I'm sure it was the only podcast at the time, but the first and only podcast I listened to for a while was the Black Rasslin Podcast. It was the first podcast where I found all Black presenters being unapologetically Black when talking about wrestling. So that was amazing for me. That gave me a little confidence to go with what I wanted to do and go for it. But I can say this. While these guys influenced me, I believe, now you can tell me different, but I believe I kind of had a little influence on them as well. I remember when I was listening to the show, it was a lot to do, it was all about WWE and what was going on in WWE. And in the last probably 3, maybe a little bit over 3 years, I've noticed that those guys now started to do a lot more with the indie stuff. Start to be a lot more on point with the indie stuff and what was going on, and having their ears to the ground when it comes to the indie stuff. And I think now, and we'll get into the Black Wrestling Podcast 50 as well. Without them having a good knowledge, of course, of the indies and all the rest of it, this type of list would not be happening. So yeah, man, shout out to these boys, and we will get to the Black Wrestling 50 list in its third year. But we'll get into it. We'll get into it very soon. Let me go over to my boy Mex. Yo. Mex, they're in Apollo Crews' dungeon with the Intercontinental Championship behind him.
Still here.
Bro, what has been going on in the world of wrestling? Let's kick off with the pay-per-view stuff. You tell me, which one of the 2 pay-per-views? So we had Impact Wrestling's Against All Odds, and NXT In Your House. You kick off with which one you feel was your favorite one, and we'll go from there.
Well, I haven't watched entire Against All Odds. I caught snippets of the X Division match to check out what Chris Bey, Trey Miguel were doing. That was the number 1 contenders match, and then of course I watched the main event, Moose versus Kenny Omega. And In Your House, just to kind of round it up quickly, I thought this was the weakest takeover I've ever seen. which disappointed me a lot. Like, now let me get this straight. The show was still good,
Of course.
but out of every takeover that these guys have done, I just thought this was the weakest.
Okay.
The main event was very good, though. The main event was a load of fun. Ember Moon versus Raquel Gonzalez. I thought Ember Moon made Raquel Gonzalez look like a star. It's also great to see Raquel Gonzalez like in-ring repertoire kind of coming along quite nicely. She's added a few new moves to her moveset. But yeah, really and truly, I guess the big story is the Moose and Omega, and Moose put on a really good performance,
For sure.
And of course, it was down to shenanigans that caused him to lose.
An absolute madness. So to go in straight into that one, actually, let's go into that one. So Moose versus Kenny Omega. Obviously, we've been waiting for this one for a while, and on this show, for those that listen regularly, we know that we've not been, overly enthusiastic or optimistic about the outcome of the match, about what was going on, knowing that Moose is supposedly, hasn't re-signed the contract, knowing that it maybe felt a little bit too early for Kenny Omega to lose. Also, then knowing that this match was not at Slammiversary, the biggest show of Impact's year. So yeah, the inevitable happened, but at the same time, they still made it even worse by having your boys, the Young Bucks, come through and have their part in it all. Ilfam, I'm gonna come to you real quick. You tell me how you saw this one. What do you think was like the mindset of this whole AEW Impact thing? Because I'm still not getting it. I'm still not getting it.
It's one of those things where the big drug dealer tells the little drug dealer, "Hey, take my product, and we're gonna win together." But at the end of the day, the little drug dealer is gonna lose. That's Bodie. That Impact is Bodie from the wire, okay? You know what I'm saying? And God dang it, if Marlo Stansfield or Nick Khan, whatever you want to call him, is coming in here and they come on, man, they bringing in Rama here, yo. I mean Kenny Omega, I forgot it's not. There's a lot of euphemisms, you know what I'm saying? Rama here, yo, beat number 51 with Mo and Joe Buck, you know what I'm saying? They got all, you know what I mean? If you listen to Black Rasslin, you understand what we're saying. That being said, I think that's the deal. Is Kenny still working through this collector deal?
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to use. They wanted to keep. I think they want to make sure Impact wants to make sure that Moose is in a space where he knows he's respected there, and that top position and being the Impact guy to face Kenny Omega is a really high spot. They did that early in the year with Rasslin, but I really still think Kenny Omega, Chris Bay is the money, but I think they feel like they have Chris Bay locked in, so they give Moose that position so that he can stay. Because from a couple of places I heard, he was gone. I've seen him. I mean, and I don't know if he was doing it for leverage, but then there's pictures of him working out with some WWE guys. And so I think that's the deal. I think they want to make sure.
As we've said here, man, he's certainly on his way out. That's very obvious. He's on his way out. But I just think it's a shame.
Yeah, I saw
that hand up. I just think it's a real shame that he's had the push that he's had over the last, the progression that he's had over the last few months, especially from the start of this year, to then it not necessarily amount to him becoming a champion in Impact, somewhere where he's been for so long.
He was gone for a bit though, right?
So it's a little weird. Mex, what were you going to say? What was you going to say?
So yeah, obviously, as we all just speaking about, it was rumored heavily that Moose's contract was to end by the end of this month. It's actually just come out within the last 30 minutes to an hour that Moose is staying with Impact.
Exclusive.
I'm just reading a report that come through from Fightful, and I think it's from Dave Meltzer as well, that he signed a new contract, a 2-year deal that will keep him at Impact until June 2023. It's a significant improvement on the financials of whatever he was earning.
Right.
The money hasn't been stated yet, but I'm sure probably in the next day or so that's gonna probably somewhat come to light. Probably not his exact pay package, but you know, something. So Impact is Moose is apparently now very much gonna feature for Impact in a big way. That's how the report has ended. So I guess this kind of throws another spanner into the works as to maybe why didn't he win then? Or you see what I mean? They must have had some type of inkling, you know, that he may have stuck around. You know, the match was only on Saturday or so. So
I mean,
yeah.
I guess what the ending of the pay-per-view has done actually was kind of still left it open.
Yes.
So whether whether Moose didn't sign, that's it. We're good. We don't have to kind of, smooth it over and stuff like that. And then we've got Sami Callihan, who's ready to do his thing as well. And as much as he got fired, it's not the end of it. So to hear Moose has re-signed, I'm now expecting a triple threat at Slammiversary, if I'm honest.
Which was meant to be,
which was proposed as the match, but then Don Callis had his word and whatever transpired. Something I was going to ask, but I think it might now be all kind of out the window because of this news. But so the main event took place at Daly's Place, the home of AEW. And of course, then we saw Sami Callihan come in, at the end and attack whoever, and Don Callis fired him. But then I've heard talks of Sami Callihan may turn up on Impact, on Dynamite. My thing is, why is this happening so late? Why did this not happen with Moose and Rich Swann before that?
Yeah.
I guess now that we know Moose has re-signed, it may still happen with Moose, possibly, hopefully, to make a little bit more sense of this whole thing. But Ilfram, what are your thoughts on that? On the news that we've just heard about Moose resigning, and then Sami Callihan possibly turn up at Dynamite and it not being done before? Why not?
Well, I think we still got to remember a couple of things. They're really young company, right? And they still haven't fully developed, and I'm talking about AEW, they still haven't really fully developed their scenes. Like their main event scene is kind of obvious, but it's also very small. But their mid card is like, what's going on? It's a bunch of guys kind of doing what they want to do. Right. So they're fighting like 3 battles, right? They're fighting the I'm new thing. They're fighting whatever WWE is doing at the same time, and they feel like they need to counter we know their counter. They're both counter booking, I guess you would call it. And then figuring out this relationship with Impact. And because I feel like the big guy always has the one, I guess one focus is, listen, we can benefit. We're the big guy here now, even though you've been around longer, but we can benefit by 2 ways. Using your talent to get our talent over and stealing your talent. I don't see any other wins from them other than those 2 things. I mean, it sounds nefarious, but we're talking pro wrestling promoters. All of them are nefarious.
That's very true. Very true. Very, very true. Very true. Why do you think then, because we've talked about it on here, and we were saying the other side of things is possibly the television network side of things. Obviously AEW, carrying like that, these big guns, and they've got the money to talk like that. But at the end of the day, and I've noticed this in WWE years ago, is the television company that has the final say, that runs things. So is it because of Impact being on a different station or the rest of it? That's why their talent hasn't come over to AEW on TNT.
No, so I don't think the network's going to have the say in like who is and isn't on the program. I think the network comes to them in the form of notes, like, hey, ease up on this, or we want to see a little more of this. You know what I mean? Make this little belt and name it after our network. That sort of thing. I don't think they were like, listen, you get Moose off my TV. Like, I don't think they do that.
Yeah.
So I don't think the network is going to impact who is, pardon the expression, is going to impact who is and isn't on the show.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see what now happens. We can't talk about the subject of what does Moose do next because we now know. So, what do you think is going to happen next now, very specifically with this whole scene, Impact Championship scene, now that Moose is staying, now that Sami Callihan's involved, now that he's been apparently fired? Are we seeing a triple threat at Slammiversary? Are we seeing somehow a one-on-one? And who is that going to be with?
Chris Bay, #1 contender, right?
You think? All right. You need to explain this one. Do you think that Chris Bay on your own opinion, or do you think that that's how Impact sees it?
I think Chris Bay has been consistently booked toward the top of that card for over a year. There's a night when they had 4 black guys in the main event on their television show, which is one of the biggest nights in Impact history, in my opinion.
Of course.
And the one thing that they have in common, even when Moose is gone, is Chris Bay was holding that division down like steel. So I think he's the guy. I think that eventually they have to move toward that match happening. I need to see that match happen anyway.
I'm the same.
Yeah, because they had, remember when it was them and Willie Mack and Rich Homie Swan.
Mm-hmm.
There was always that energy there already. So I mean, I think it has to end up there. I do see Sami Callihan there, I guess, but I guess I'm booking on what I want to see instead of what I think is gonna happen.
Yeah. Of course.
Do you guys think there's like obviously the fact that Moose has resigned? There's probably something in his contract that says, I want to be the guy to take that belt.
There is no way he's re-signed without that guarantee that he will be Impact champion before the end of the year, if not by Slammiversary. No way he's re-signed. Because you got to think, obviously, with the rumors and stuff, and the strongest possibility was that he would go to NXT. You already know.
He's gonna regret that too.
You already know Triple H showed him some money and was like, "We're gonna push you," especially with Cross being the champion. Cross has literally beaten everyone on that roster. There was no one left. Bring in Moose. We'll do a thing with him. Whether he won the NXT championship is neither here nor there, but he would have been thrown in there straight away. So the only way he wasn't gonna end up on NXT was that guarantee of obviously more money, but then definitely that clause of him becoming Impact champion had to be in there. Has to be in there. Otherwise, again, it would feel illogical for Impact to even try to re-sign him, in my opinion, with what they've done with him over the last few months. Pointless completely. Moving on just a little quickly, but still keeping with Impact, something that I noticed over the last few months, actually. I don't know if anyone else has noticed this. Has anyone else noticed the booking on Impact of Willie Mack?
It's gone downhill.
Like, majorly. He's been getting brutalized by everybody.
I've seen more Willie Mack on Live with the Pope than I've seen Willie Mack in ring over the last 6 months. And I love Willie Mack. I'm a huge Willie Mack fan.
Yeah, I've always
very fun. I got a chance to interview him. Hilarious guy, fun time. Real dude. My favorite. One of my favorite ends. In the industry. Hey, listen, I'm trying.
Okay. But for sure, I mean, like, it seems to have been over the last probably a year now, where the constant Willie Mack story is him being saved by Rich Swann. And in the last 6 months, it's been because he's been brutalized and beaten up by someone. First of all, I think Tommy Dreamer did it once. Moose absolutely destroyed him. And now W. Morrissey came in, destroyed him. Who saves him? Rich Swann. So I'm hoping they're kind of building almost this long-term storyline of Willie Mack will flip out on Rich Swann because he's like, I can handle myself. It kind of almost happened with the Moose storyline as well at one point. I'm hoping that's what's going to happen. Otherwise, it's just like you're just allowing this guy to just get beaten up every single week, literally brutalized in no disqualification matches and all that kind of stuff. It's not just losses by pinfall. He's being battered to where he can't move. I don't get it. I'm just glad I'm not the only one that's seeing it. I just need to make sense of it. It doesn't
I thought I was the only one that was seeing it, but I think it's maybe they are just kind of maybe. Because, you know, maybe about 6 months ago, he was kind of up there in terms of number one contender. And maybe it's just them trying to remove him from there to put new guys in and just shuffle the pack a bit. But yeah, it has kind of fallen off a cliff rather than him just being involved in other stuff away from the championship. It's like you said, he is being brutalized all the time.
I think the issue may be that he is not your quote unquote, you know, typically attractive guy.
Of course.
He's not he's not, he doesn't have the classic pro wrestling physique. You know, he's not conventional in any way. There's no way anybody built like Willie Mack should be able to do the things that he's capable of. But I feel like Impact, and this might just be me being used to Vince McMahon booking, but I think the bookers over there may think that he's reached his ceiling as what he can be. I don't think they see him as a world champion. I don't see that. You see what I'm saying? I don't see that they think that in their opinion. So I think it's a point where, well, this guy can go. We all know that. Well, let's put him into some matches and get some other guys over. And that's kind of the curse of a lot of really good, especially black pro wrestlers, where the bookers have seen their ceiling and figure, I'm not going to make him a world champion, but I can make him make a world champion.
Right. Very, very true. We've seen that countless times with so many stars. That almost happened to Moose, to be honest, actually. So yeah, we've seen that countless times where, as you said, even, you know, black stars, other stars, we've seen it where they get to this point and you just know they're not going to push them any further. So then they become, you know, the talent that puts over newer faces.
Naomi.
Either new faces in terms of age.
Huh?
Sorry, I've got a bad cough.
I am triggered.
Either newer faces by age or just newer faces who have come in as, you know, probably signed a new contract or whatever it is. It's a shame because as unconventional as Willie Mack is in every way, that was why, and that is why you love him. He's not supposed to be as good as he is, be able to do what he does with his size. He's not supposed to be a lovable guy in the way he looks. You know, all of that type of thing, even the way he talks, all of that, he shouldn't be a future world champion. But I would argue that Rich Swann was almost that as well. He had the better physique, but at the same time, the way he looks, I've always questioned, like, world champion, Rich Swann.
Yeah.
How did that work? You know what I mean? So, I don't know what the real excuse is, but
I'll shoot him some bail because he's from Maryland. He's from my neck of the woods, so I'll shoot him a little bit of bail. But no, his beard is terrible. His dreads are terrible. You know, he was introduced to us. He does a lot of dancing. I hate that still.
Yeah.
Stop dancing.
100%.
No, for real.
But they saw something in him, and I think, and this holds true in every other Federation is WWE cachet means something everywhere else. And I think it works the opposite. I think people who were made other places, that dirt is hard to get off when you get to WWE.
Right. EC3 is probably a very, very good example of that. EC3 is a very, very strong example of that. EC3 was so over in Impact, came to WWE.
They didn't make him.
Never saw him. We basically never saw him, which is crazy. But yeah, there have been. Say again.
I said I don't even know how that didn't work. He's such like a WWE kind of guy anyway.
Right. In every way.
They didn't make him.
Yeah. Exactly that. It's crazy. This is the world of wrestling that we still love for some strange reason.
We're addicted. It's definitely an abusive relationship.
100%.
Oh Lord! Speaking of abusive relationships, I'm joking. What do you call it?
Yeah,
you know what? To be honest, something that we've been hit by just yesterday is another thing that we were talking about on this show last week. Mex brought up the case of Naomi. No, now that there's no Lana, there was no Naomi, but Naomi turned up this week, just yesterday on Monday Night Raw. And we know what happened. Basically, she was squashed by a new wrestler. I mean, we know who she is, Piper Niven, who came from NXT UK, but then she was introduced with basically no name. Basically, no one knew who she was, apparently. But
they booked her like Zeus.
Basically, some mythical person, mythical creature,
impervious to pain.
Yeah.
Let me say this because I'm gonna rant later on this week. If there were a white athlete, like a white pro wrestler woman who had the athletic skill, talent, and prowess of a Naomi, there is no way this far in her career she would not have way more accolades and way more championships, and there's no way she'd be a jobber.
Charlotte Flair.
Naomi in 10 or 11 years she's been in WWE. Naomi should be like at least a 5-time champion by now. Minimum. How she didn't even win the Divas Championship when that was around is just crazy. Like, who's there was better? Like, are you being serious? But they
talk about bringing the Divas. They talk about bringing the Bellas back.
Yeah. No, Laurinaitis is back in office, isn't he? So
and we don't have like multiple world champion, women's champion runs. A Naomi? Come on, man.
You know
we already know what that is.
They every single time they underestimate the power of Naomi's fan base. Even when they put out that graphic last night, Eva Marie versus Naomi. The uproar online was crazy. Because you could already see what was going to happen. Naomi was just going to be used in this situation.
Right.
And it's just like, do they not have eyes? Can they not see this? Remember that other hashtag that was going at the time when Naomi wasn't...
Give Naomi a chance or bring back... When she came back after the Royal Rumble, even TMZ and all these other outside of WWE outlets and whatever else bought it, put it up on their site, all the rest of them. Like,
they think Naomi has no fans. They think Naomi has 0 fans. That's what they think.
No, I don't think they're that stupid.
They're very aware.
I think they see all of this, and they're like, you know who the perfect person to get someone over their heel is? This person that everybody is clamoring for to get a run. And they say, oh, bet, we got you. You've been worked. Here's the issue. Is they use her in that capacity. What that does, though, is they get the X-Pac heat on the red chick, and nameless talent who has been working in NXT UK for quite some time,
as one of the top ladies as well.
They bury the lead there. This no nameless introduction. Because all you want to do is get Eva Marie over to do what?
Right.
There's nothing I see her being, unless she is just the manager just a valet or whatever you would like to call her. Well, now she would be a manager. For you know what I'm saying, homegirl. And then homegirl starts getting slandered online, and that turned into a thing yesterday. It was a mess.
And that's the issue that I have. Like I've never been against. I actually loved the whole thing of everyone hating Eva Marie. So when she was coming back and everyone's in uproar, I'm laughing in the corner like, yep. This is what you want. This is what I want you to do. I'm good. I'm good with all of that part of it. With the Eva Marie part, I'm good. But when Naomi's been made to look the way she looked, then you're using Piper Niven in the way that she's been used after she's been one of the top females in NXT UK for the last year and a half.
Expecting Piper Niven yesterday,
and then she's come out like a big blue Smurf. And I didn't even see the clips and stuff. I just saw a picture of Eva Marie and Piper Niven, and I just knew they were making her look silly. Then I saw the clips, and I was like, "Oh, forget it."
Let me ask you a question because I'm not really well versed in NXT UK. Is that her regular gear?
Not at all in the slightest.
She wears gear like that. She's never wore like a blue color like that. It's usually like a glittery kind of green or something like that. She doesn't do her hair like that. They made her put her hair like that, which for me looked a bit like school childish rather than her hair down like the rest of the women on the roster.
Almost oafish.
Yeah.
Almost oafish. You know, big folks, you gotta make sure the aesthetic is right, or they're gonna look really bad. And people responded to the way she looked aesthetically. She comes out there in wrestling gear. You're very exposed, right? And a lot of you know, people aren't gonna be nice. Wrestling people aren't nice. I hope y'all, you know what I mean? If you guys watch pro wrestling, wrestling folks aren't nice. So when she came out and people were already charged up against Eva Marie, folks were already charged up with Naomi, and then she does what she did to her, people responded. And people didn't like a lot of the language that was used, and it got kind of weird online. What I will say to you good folks that got angry at how people are responding to pro wrestlers, especially pro wrestlers that are the bad guys. Because I want to keep it in the verbiage of people who don't understand what's going on. Fans are going to say really mean stuff. If you're a heel, people don't say, "Hey, I love MJF. He's a nice guy." No, they say he's a D*CK. You know what I'm saying? And the issue, I guess, is people now end up turning on people who end up watching wrestling how we're intended to watch it, boo the bad guys. And now when they talk about booing the bad guys, they're like, "Oh, well, you're shaming her." About y'all gotta chill, man. It's just for wrestling.
This is true. And this is why, for me, like them creating this hate for Eva Marie is fine. It's what it's supposed to be. It's all of that. It just feels almost too far when the status of another wrestler is then, you know,
in jeopardy.
It means she's being demeaned at the end of the day. You know what I mean? With Naomi, for to be specific, it goes too far. If it was a thing where it was a feud and they were back and forth for a few weeks, yeah, okay, we can deal with that. For it to be a squash with someone that you've then has a no name, then you're making her look silly as the character that she was known for, and then bringing her in the way. It's just like,
have you guys seen what the rumored name for her was?
Was it like
Doju or something like that? Doju.
Yeah, it's something absolutely
Doju. It's not a name. It don't matter how forward you sit and try to hear it. It's not a name. It's Doju. Apparently, that's what they were going to call her. What gone?
Dewdrop.
Dewdrop.
Doudrop. Dewdrop.
Dewdrop. That's first of all, I used to know a singer by that name locally in Baltimore. Wow. Real good bass voice. Anyway, that's awful. That's a terrible name, and it further gives us the perception. They want you to have that perception it's how they're booking her. They're booking her. They're booking her like Otis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you know what I thought? Like a Eugene.
Yeah. That's
Like
what
Eugene of old. Probably not as far, but that kind of, not quite there in the head, and a little bit dunce and a little bit silly, all that kind of stuff, and that's what it is. And I'm just like, we're still
They're
doing this
doing that because she's a bigger girl.
Yeah.
That's exactly why they doing it. And so anything that is reactionary to that is that's the way she's being booked. That's the plate she's being put on.
So that apparently that was going to be the name before Raw went live, and the fact that they never actually called her that on Raw made some people think, insiders, that okay, maybe they're going to swap out the name because they haven't actually introduced her as that. But then obviously she won the match. She went to give Eva Marie that big hug outside. Eva Marie cringed when she was being hugged by her. The whole Eva Marie gimmick is about helping and motivating someone, but now they've put someone that doesn't look anything like Eva Marie next to her, and Eva Marie doesn't even want to kind of be anything part. I think they are tolling a very dangerous line, depending on what happens next week. I don't know what the equivalent to Ofcom is in the US, but the TV network might start getting some calls and stuff if this doesn't portray very well to a certain audience.
It's very true.
They can call USA Direct. USA is the company. They be like, look, USA, I'm offended. You know what I mean? Y'all, they're going to use that shaming. You such and such shaming a girl. She a big girl, so we supposed to feel a way about it. You got us feeling. You can almost hear it. 100%. That's how y'all booking her.
Right.
This is not me trying to, be funny about the girl, but this is how she's being presented on TV.
You're right.
So when those comments come, and they did come, people got upset. But the fact is, this is the way the young lady's being booked.
100%.
It's absolutely crazy. To keep things moving, to move on to the next subject, and we're going to talk about this one very quickly, and then move on to the BRP 50. So last week, me and Mex were here talking about the surprise appearance of Leo Rush, and then talking about how much stuff and how much potential and where he's going to go, who's going to sign him, where he's going to turn up next, and all the rest of it. With only days later, Leo Rush retires.
Yeah.
Sort of.
So, my thoughts too. So, Leo Rush explained that he picked up an injury during his appearance on AEW Double or Nothing. I think it was his shoulder.
Yeah, like AC joint or something like that.
Yep. And then started talking about how he was scared to it scared him how difficult it was to pick up his to pick up his kids and all this type of thing, and then decided, because of all of that, because of the fear of it, because of the uncertainty, he's going to retire. But then in a very weird way as well, there was a little thing at the end where he said, I still have certain, contractual obligations, and then after that, I'll retire.
New Japan.
So my thought was, okay, so it's not like a Daniel Bryan Edge, Stone Cold type injury where, you have to leave the ring. It's detrimental to your life. You've broken your neck or whatever it is. This is just a shoulder separation. As serious as that can be, because that type of thing I think can recur often. If it happens once, it's it can happen often. But it's not
mobility too.
Yeah, it's not an injury though to where doctors will turn around and say, okay, right, don't ever touch a ring ever again.
Right.
We also know that Leo Rush, the same time last year, also retired, but more so out of frustration after being released from WWE. Within about 4 months, we saw him in a ring again. So, what do you think this is? Do you think this is straight up retirement? We're never going to see Leo Rush in the ring again. I'm sure he's not even. He's only what 20. He only just turned 26.
26, I think.
26. That's like a baby in the wrestling game. Do you think we'll never see Leo Rush in the ring again, or how long do you think it's going to be until we see him in the ring again?
Well, we already know that is the problem. That is problem number one in anybody buying this retirement, is that we already know we're going to see him in a ring again once he gets healthy, right? Now, Leo Rush had a very short, young, tumultuous career.
Right.
A lot of stuff go on, right? Mark Henry, the Evilino, whatever her name was, that deal. He's had all sorts of things happen in his short career, and he's a really young guy. And like we said, he retired last year, and immediately retired. So we know this guy is a bit of he's reactionary. He's an emotional guy, and he's young. That being said, a year or however long it takes for him to get, all the way back, healthy, and him doing this thing that he's really, really good at, right? Because Leo Rush is an amazing wrestler.
Absolutely amazing.
The combination of him actually being healthy, some time to sit with it, and like I said, more just being a little bit older, I think he could see the world very differently once he's healthy.
Yeah. Mick, so what are you thinking about this?
The way you kind of dissected it there, I did think at first it was a bit of an emotional decision. The way you dissected it there, I'm pretty sure this was an emotional decision. I really do understand the fear of, you can't play with your child or anything like that. You can't lift them up, and I 100%
very real.
But I just think that we've heard it once already, and that's what he will become. The boy who cries wolf and all of that kind of stuff. Oh yeah, he's retiring, and then we see him again, sort of thing. And things may not be where he wants them to be at this time, but with this AEW appearance, it was, I guess, it's the next best thing. If you're not going back to WWE, this is the next best thing for you in North America. Right. So it must have been a bummer, but I think he's got his eyes on other things. I mean, at this point, I'm actually questioning how much does he actually want to be a wrestler. Obviously, he does music as well, and got his hands in other kind of stuff.
He's got a single on the way.
Yeah. So I'm just questioning, is he really 100% focused on wrestling, or is it just like another thing for him? Because you usually hear, okay, I'm injured now, I need to get myself fit and I'm coming back and everything. But again, things don't go his way. We've heard about rants and bust ups with Leo Rush, not just, injuries and stuff like that, or being released. There's always something with Leo Rush. And I would love to see Leo Rush get older and come back into the business, maybe with a more, wiser mind and stuff like that. Yeah, very true. Away from all of this kind of stuff. For now, I'll call it an emotional decision. I hope he does what he feels is right for him and comes back. But deep down, I am questioning how much does this guy actually want it? How much does this guy actually want to be a wrestler?
For me, it's one of those ones where, if he turned around and said, I'm taking a bit of time out, this injury kind of scared me. If he just said almost exactly the same thing, word for word, but then said, I'm taking a year, I'm taking 2 years out to be with my family, to be with my kids, to grow up my kids, no problem. I wouldn't be questioning anything. We probably wouldn't even be talking about it right now.
100%.
But with him saying, I'm retired, I'm like, nah, not with all the opportunities that were in front of him as well. Because he even said, I think even Tony Khan said it as well, that AEW were ready to give him something, even after knowing that he just hurt his shoulder. So they were ready to go all out and do whatever they needed to do to get him on their books, basically. Obviously, we know that New Japan had him on there as well in a contract. So it's almost like, so what is this? What really is this? As you said, it's obvious he's very emotional. I've heard of accounts from, direct from other wrestlers that have been in locker rooms with him and stuff like that, how emotional he can be and how reactionary he can be. So this is no surprise in a very weird way, probably a little bit too cynical, but in a very weird way as well. Like, even when he retired last year, he was also dropping a new single.
Marketing.
Formula is, it's a little bit repetitive. It seems the same, but who knows? I respect the decision of taking a step back. And as Mick said as well, it's a very real fear of, being as dedicated as a father as he is, which is absolutely commendable. It makes a lot of sense for something like that to scare you a little bit and make you feel as though you can't bring up your child and be around your child as much as you want to be. I understand that part completely. But again, it's just this whole, I'm retiring. I'm just like, really?
0 to
just
100.
say you're taking a year out, come back a little bit more headstrong. We're good to go. I'm sure that's what's going to happen. Maybe in about a year, maybe 2 years or so. Maybe we'll just clip this part of this show and we'll be playing it in 2 years and be like, told you so. You know what I mean? It just feels like one of those kind of situations to me. But let me make sure that we give enough time for Ilfam to talk about one of the most important lists in all of wrestling, which is the Black Wrestling Podcast 50. Amazingly, in its third year, it's an annual list. And I'm not going to say too much. I can actually tell you about it, but I'll let Ilfam talk about what it is. Let us know also as well how it started, why it started, and almost as well, actually, when you get there, what you're looking to do with it. Is it going to, are you looking to do more with it? Where are you looking to take it?
So, I mean, it really started, and shout out to Cal, because Cal is the mastermind behind the podcast in general. He did the podcast before Brother Matt and myself came on board. And then later on, Drip, our stat guy. And really is to fill a space that wasn't, was an underserved space. It started as Cal throwing up pictures of black wrestlers. That what Black Wrestling, the site started as. The social media sites, and it's just born out of necessity, right?
Sure.
You see the PWI come out every year.
Yep.
And there is a Negro ceiling.
For sure.
So really, we're breaking the Negro ceiling. We felt like the list was necessary because once these outlets start, you guys, shout out to Black Announce Table and Public Enemies, those wrestling girls, so on and so forth. You have to start validating your sources.
Right.
These sources.
Right.
You have to start giving these folks credence. You know what I'm saying? So every single column or thing that you read online isn't sources say Dave Meltzer said.
Right.
Oh, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
No one's going to tell our story like us, right? So we saw that was an underserved portion of the pro wrestling community.
Right.
And so that's why the podcast started. And then once you see these amazing pro wrestlers not get the pushes they deserve and having that Negro ceiling on TV, you got to have some way to help them break through, man. So let's put this list together to put the focus on these folks that aren't going to get seen. We were like, our top 10 is kind of cliche. Top 5, top 10 is kind of cliche. It's not enough.
Right.
Same with top 25. So 50, 100, 100, especially when we started, 100 seemed like way too much just because even like you were when we started 3 years ago, finding 100 black pro wrestlers, like you were lifting the benches and been like, all right, do you wrestle? I wrestled one time, I had a match. You know what I mean? And so with that big a number, a lot of times, anything past that 5,100 marks is really more so just for the pro wrestlers. And right now, we were
Right.
kind of serving the folks that watch pro wrestling and want to direct them to the pro wrestlers that we enjoy
Mm-hmm.
and that we, have had a good history of,
Mm-hmm.
putting on good matches, being entertaining, and doing the things that pro wrestlers need to do.
Mm-mm-mm. So I remember kind of getting involved last year. You guys did, the second one, and
The after the 50.
and we then collaborated for the after. I guess it was like almost like a big honorable mentions list. You know what I mean? So kind of just naming a few more people that probably just missed out on the 50, or others that we probably expect to be in this year's one. You know what I mean? From 12 months ago or whatever. So that was great doing that. And again, I felt as though it was definitely about an awareness. So as you said, it's us seeing as much as we do, knowing as much as we know, getting our hands dirty, I guess, in understanding and knowing about certain wrestlers. But then the casual fan, our followers, all that kind of stuff, don't get to see those people. So this was a way for us to say, right, look out for these people, follow these people. And it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, so this year now, I've seen that you've connected with Wheel of Wrestling, and they'll be doing the after list. And I think that's almost for me. That's almost perfect. Terry has kind of in the last 12 months or so, he's been the workhorse. He's everywhere.
Oh my god!
Everywhere. I thought Mex was everywhere. Terry is everywhere.
He's out here.
That shows taking the pictures, the videos, doing the interviews, all that kind of stuff. So for you guys to collaborate with him is, for me, like the perfect way to do it. What do you see happening with the 50? So you mentioned that, going past the 100 mark is probably difficult and all that kind of stuff. But do you think, because I think it's not impossible, it's just very, very difficult. But there are more than, 250. Yeah, more than 250 black wrestlers out there all over the world. Do you think it can be pushed further? Are you trying to push it further, or is it kind of like let's keep it simple and just see what happens?
So here's the thing: if there are a million of a thing, it's pretty accessible. You know what I mean? If there is 1,000 of a thing, it's like accessible, but you can probably get it. Same way down to 100. So at this point, I feel like a spot on the BRP 50, while about getting it out to the fans and folks that pay attention to what we do, is important. Once a pro wrestler, we had an issue with somebody we talked about earlier and their spot on the list last year.
Yep, I remember that.
But I feel like we want the wrestlers to I want them to invest in it too and see this as something. So I don't want, we don't want to just, like, a spot on the 50 means something a little bit, you know what I mean, in this small universe of what we're doing. So I think to broaden it out to a 100 or, a 2 or 3 or 500 starts to kind of minimize what a spot on the list means.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense to me. You kind of diluting the substance of it by making it a list of inclusion. That's what it becomes. It becomes a list of inclusion more than a list of
highlighting.
Yeah, exactly that. So we've seen other lists before. We've seen even my own the Jet Power 10. Do you have a specific criteria, a strict criteria that you stick to, or is it kind of just, I know these people or they have done something, or how do you get to 50? How do you get to choose the 50?
Whew. So it is. I'm going to tell you, Math is the workhorse of
Mm,
the PRP 50. Math goes through way more footage than I know I do,
mm,
especially with the back end of the list. Um, but it's a combination of title runs,
mm,
positions, TV
mm,
time, uh, your win loss records. How active have you been? Where
yep,
have you been active?
yep.
It's really everything that you can think of criteria wise, and it comes down to a war room. Like we'll come together with our each individual list of 50, and
Mm,
then we'll bang that, like, kind of look at the list and lock in where everybody goes, and
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know some uh some heated discussions may ensue.
I'm
Definitely.
sure it would be. It's been crazy. It would definitely be mad. I remember when me and Mex did what was it, that top five of black wrestlers who we expect to be WWE champions in the future and stuff. And
Yeah.
luckily it was only five, because I think if it was more than that, it would have been a long day of to and fro, and I mean, here, there, and everywhere. So I completely understand. And even when you collaborate with others, opinion comes in there, regardless of how strict your criteria is. Opinion will
Absolutely.
always come in there as well. So, I,
Absolutely.
I get definitely how difficult getting to 50, where you're even struggling to even find out what people's win loss record is. That is very difficult. That has always been difficult for me. I know I've been asked many times, "Oh, how come you haven't done a list like the PWI?" And da-da. I'm like, you know how much research that is.
Time.
Yeah.
Time that is. It would probably take you to do it properly to like 2 years to do a list for a year. It's crazy. So I commend you guys for doing that, and to even reach a third year in a row
100.
with no gap. It's going to be interesting. Let us know how we can find it when it comes out, and all that good stuff.
All right. So first of all, pay attention. You see right up here at Black Wrestling on all social
Yeah. Yep.
media. Um, we're gonna start in the next few days here, releasing. If you go there now, you will see the specific criteria. You'll see some images, and it'll kind of get you ready and revved up for the
Mm-mm-mm.
official drop. And in these next couple of days here, you will see um, you'll see a bunch of drops. We'll start from 50, I believe,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday. We're gonna start dropping the list, and then the top
Mm.
10, the top 10 drops on YouTube first.
Oh, nice.
Black, yeah, black, youtube.com/Black Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll drop that top 10 there first. There'll be a recording there. It's already done. It's interesting. And yeah, it's like I said, at Black Wrestling, blackwrestling.com.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All these places, it'll be there for you on Twitter, on Instagram. Look up Black Wrestling on even Facebook. It'll be everywhere. You'll be able to see. We'll start dropping them, like I said, in the next few days. And on Juneteenth, on Saturday, we'll be
Yeah.
ready
Yeah.
to go with the top 10.
Juneteenth, June 19th, for us UK folks who don't know what Juneteenth
Yes.
is. We lack some of that, knowledge over here. You know what the joke is? I had to be educated on that. I think was it last year, if not 2 years ago. June 19th came, and I had all these DMs. How come you haven't put up this? How come you haven't put up anything on Juneteenth? Da-da-da. I'm like,
I'm,
what are you
I'm not
talking about?
American. I'm not American, champ. My bad. Yeah.
But Juneteenth is celebrated as kind of like our, I guess, African American Liberation Day, if nothing else. So yeah, Juneteenth is a massive day, major day, in the US, and of course, with me being the space of black wrestling for most
Hey,
of the
look,
US.
man, get you somebody. Look, on Saturday,
Yeah.
Saturday from where I'm from. On Saturday, go and get you
Already.
somebody. Saturday, so get you some, cook up some greens. You know what I mean? Some fried. You know what I mean? Fry some fish, fry some chicken. You know what I mean? Whatever it is, get you some
Yeah, man.
roti. You know what I mean? Depend on whatever you into. Go ahead and get right, this
True.
man. Everybody celebrate being black on this Saturday, along with the
Trust me.
BRP. Check out the BRP 50. You know what I'm saying? Have you a good time. It is what it is.
For sure. I'll be looking out for that for sure. I'll be following from 50 all the way to 1. It's going to be interesting. It's been interesting every year so far. It's been interesting, and it's been so funny. Especially last year, you mentioned the one wrestler that was upset by his position last year. I'm very interested to see where he comes in this year. Very, very interested to see where he comes in this year, if he's even in it. He should be, but we'll see. But yo, folks, this is WrstlXtra. You have been watching on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel and listening on affinityextra.com. I didn't even do that at the start because I got too excited. But anyway, this is my boy Mex. This is the man Ilfam from Black Rasslin. Make sure you check out the Black Rasslin 50 on June 19th, otherwise known as Juneteenth. And of course, follow me on Black Rasslin Alliance. You'll probably see me throw it in the story as well, the Black Rasslin 50, of course. And if you're not following me, I don't know why you're even watching the show. But anyway, folks, this has been it. Yo, as Ilfam said, I need to go and cook some chicken, get it ready from now, start preparing. It's in
Marinade.
a few days. So, yo, we got to marinade overnight in the fridge, all of that. Get the hands dirty, all of that. Folks, I'm rambling now. That's it's the end of the show. We got to go. Thanks again, Ilfam. Mex, I will see you next week. But, yo.
I love you, really.
Don't tell everyone. We got to go. See you later.